will get into everything. So if you have heard us talking, and especially if you have heard anything, honestly, that Mackenzie has said, probably since we have been recording as a trio, Mackenzie's main question has always been, quote unquote, where are Democrats? So a recent poll that came out via Quinnipiac University released last week said that Democrats in Congress have hit an all-time low in rankings of their approval with Democratic voters. The lowest since they have measured this in 2009 is when they started. Voters are unhappy with the party's response to Trump's second term. 49% of Democratic voters disapprove of the job that Democrats are doing in Congress, compared to 40% approving. This time in 2017, during Trump's first term in office, 59% of Democrats actually approved of the job that congressional Democrats are doing. So that's a big shift. Almost around 20% of folks who are now saying that I used to approve of what they were doing in their response to Trump. Now I disapprove. There are so many ways that we can have this conversation, but I think, um, Mackenzie, I'll start with you. What do you think Democrats are doing wrong? I think we can start there because I think there are multiple parts of this conversation.
I am like so disappointed with those videos. Like, I'm sorry, but that is just so stupid to me, so childish to me. And I just say it so harshly because it's just like the choose your fighter video. Like, are y'all for
Can
real?
you, for the people solely listening, can you reference the video that you were referring
Yes, so it was, I believe it was before the State of the Union.
to? Okay.
And it was different Congress people. It was Congress, yeah, Congress
Hmm.
members. And it was a video saying choose your fighter. And it was switching in and out different Congress people, like doing I don't even know, like a
They were
dance.
like spawning in and like, yeah, doing
Yeah,
like like
as if
I'm
they're
gathering to fight. Yeah.
yeah, as they're like in a video game. And it was just like, we are so beyond that. Like, and it's like, stop making these videos, because also, like, we should have learned from the election, like, that extra stuff, those distractions really don't matter. So why do we keep doing the same thing? And I think that, at least for me, I didn't participate in the poll, but like, that just turned me off completely. And I'm not going to say all Democrats, because there are people like Chris Murphy. There are some people who
Mhm.
are speaking out and I would say like taking charge or whatever. But like overall, yeah, like the video, that was just ridiculous. I'm sorry.
Henry,
Noah, Noah,
you want me to go?
yeah.
Why you do that?
No, I like this. I like this. Usually we go Mackenzie, Henry, then me. Okay, I like this. What I think they're doing wrong, um, well, Mackenzie actually knows this. I actually kind of think that they're onto something with that video. It's just not the right thing. I think there's a creativity that they are now showing that's not right yet, but I think they're on the path to, I think, saying, how can we capture your attention? And I think in this kind of, and Mackenzie, you know this better than anyone, like you share clips when you, now that, Mackenzie's a super producer for those who don't know, when you share your clips of like, hey, y'all, we're talking, see Gayle, hey, see Morris Chestnut, you show that brief clip to like bring me in. Now I want to watch the rest of it as opposed to Gayle just talking about what she's going to do. No, you show the person. I think they're doing a better job of kind of like being a little bit more visible. But I think what they're doing wrong is I think they're just not doing it in the right way. Um, I think there's still I don't think they all understand yet of like, hey, like you have to figure out ways to kind of carve into spaces that aren't even news focused at all. I don't know how they do that effectively with the people they have. And I think that's the biggest problem is like, I think the people like Chris Murphy, I saw him on Hassan Minaj's show. That's really good. That's on YouTube. Like, he's probably one of the best people of like, I'm just going to go to where like the viewers are. And I'm going to make this show navigate to what I want to talk about, but also I'm going to talk about what they would usually talk about. I think we need to like show a different side of people to make people feel as if we're not, I say we, Democrats kind of have this reputation. I'll lean on you all. I think of kind of being this like overthinking, kind of politically correct, always do the right thing. And I think they need to kind of like just break that down and seem more realistic. Um,
Jasmine Crockett actually
mhm.
spoke on the Breakfast Club. I wish I would have watched it
Yep.
before the
Hmm.
interview, but she did. And it did have a lot of views. But yeah, I will say that there are other ways. It's just like, I do feel like they should be more on the podcast. They should be
Hmm.
more just talking more on the ground. Like just I feel like
Hmm.
in a way, like just talk to us. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
the Breakfast Club is where you can reach us. You don't need to do
Um,
a comedy sketch for a video.
so
I
like
agree.
that's where, especially during the election time period, you all, both of you, Noah, I'm very surprised at
Oh,
your
let's go. Let's go.
I do agree with what you were saying with they're cooking. They
Hmm.
just haven't landed on the messaging. But to the point of like, go where their people are and we want to see more creativity and blah, they're doing it. Now you're complaining because my thing is
Are
what
they?
they're like you just said, they're trying to get your attention. They're trying to make you aware because in like what can they do in Congress?
And
in
and
in a
and
right now sense.
mhm.
The only thing they can do is make the citizens of the United States more aware of what's going on, what's at stake in 2026 when it's time for you to vote and we can maybe take back some power and push. We can then strategize on, not even strategize, but we've formulated an agenda because they've now messaged to us enough to know, hey, we're gonna be fighting all of this and that. And the thing is, I think and I don't mean this and that, they should have direct issues. Like it can't just now be abortion rights. It has to now be citizenships and funding and all of, and that's what I was getting ready to go into. All of what Trump is doing is making their job a bit harder. And both of you all know, and if you listen to the podcast, I'm no like Democrat apologist. However, I am attempting to be logical in the sense that in real time, they have no power. Like,
and
let's be real.
mhm. I would agree. And the funny thing is actually that was going to pivot to a thing that I was going to ask. Mackenzie Henry, 'cause I think you're spot on. They can't do anything. Like, they actually cannot change anything that Trump is doing. They don't have power in the House. They don't have power in the Senate. But to your point, the only thing that they can do, and I think if you're a Democrat who is in Washington, your main thing needs to be we need to gin up as much anger so we can win in 2026. That needs to be like your primary job. You cannot do anything else. But I think that gets, and I'll let go ahead before I ask my question to Mackenzie.
So that's where I'm like, again, in the real time of what the circumstances we're in, they're protesting. They're attempting to get on social media. Jasmine Crockett has been on a press tour forever since that
That's
man.
one person. That's one person
No, no,
though.
I get, and that's where I will go into the only thing. If you're gonna ask me what they're doing wrong, because we can be petty, but on some like real time fighting the power, what can happen? Um, I feel like the leadership in the like Hakeem, that's his name.
I have
Hakeem
a very interesting thought on him, but
So
we
like I
can.
feel like he's attempting to speak up a bit more, but I don't know which way he's playing. And then again, when we say strategy, what do we do? What bills or legislation is going to be put in place, or what are we attacking? I haven't real time heard that, but that's also the confusion with like Trump being in office and him like this Dodge thing where they're just firing people, then reneging, and then cutting budgets, and just all of this mayhem they're causing. Democrats have to fight this stuff. So it's like that's always the crux of their party. They have to put out all these fires that are going on, and I don't think the older leadership is going to be able to grasp the attention of the younger generation and all the people until they make that switch to put more AOCs and Jasmine Crockett's and those more vocal, relatable people out there.
Yeah,
Mackenzie, yeah.
Jasmine
Go ahead,
don't need
Mackenzie.
to do the videos though. That's the thing. Like, I just feel like they can do all of these things, but like the videos have to stop. Like, if we go into the 2028 election, and we see, and if they still lean on to do the same playbook with the rappers, or not even rappers, just performances and all of those things, I will still be disappointed because I just feel
Can,
like,
can I act like for real? What I didn't mean to cut you off, but I get complain. I get it. I
yeah,
get I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. What?
What are they supposed to do during the election
Yes.
time?
Like,
They are
what can they
supposed to
do
drill
to
the
us?
message in our head. Like, I don't feel like we need Glorilla and Megan Thee Stallion up there to tell us that anymore.
Or rather, and I think this is key. I think you need to just use them more effectively. I think you need to use them
There we
more
Yeah.
go, Noah.
effectively.
There we
I
go,
think if you're
Noah.
having them, like for me, having even someone like Beyonce, having her just perform and give a 2 minute speech like in Houston, I think it's just not like it's a wow factor, but like you need to get them in
But
and
can
then
we
like
also
to the
admit
next thing.
something too, though?
But
Can we?
Mhm.
can we first admit that that doesn't, I don't believe anymore that like
It's not as
Beyonce
effective as it used
knows.
to be.
I don't believe celebrity in these cases mean as much as we think that they do. I don't necessarily think that someone sees Beyonce on stage voting for Kamala as a black woman, that's already a black woman, knowing what black women already do, voting for Kamala's changing anything.
Here's my
Don't
pushback is that I
disagree, but
think
I think we need more like that. But then becomes, I think, what I said of changing the leadership. Nowadays, we need real politicians and people we can actually believe in and get behind. And like, I don't think Kamala was giving the grace of being that person. But then also, 95% of black people showed up. That wasn't our problem. And then also, I think the elephant we're ignoring is he rigged the election, bro. They stole it. That's a fact.
I'm
I
not
mean,
going
I
there,
believe
but
that America, the way that these companies are
I'm not
rolling,
going
like the
there.
way people are coming out the woodworks, the way things are, like I sure whatever, but I believe that people want him because that's how people really feel and want their, and not even feel about the races, because I don't, I also feel like people would worry about their pockets, whatever. But my point is people genuinely felt that way, and I don't think a celebrity getting up there rapping about it or whatever really had impact as y'all think it is.
I think it does. Or to your point, I think you are correct. It's not as effective as it used to be. Similar in the way how we talked about after the election, like knocking on doors is not as effective as it used to be in that Obama era, just because we have other things to capture our attention in between. Like knocking, no one should focus on that. However, I do think if you're using it as an opportunity to get more eyes on you, and I think that is where I think the Beyonce thing, the Megan Thee Stallion thing, people were talking about it. And I think in this age, if you're getting people who are not naturally going to focus on you. But to your point, Mackenzie, if you're doing that in a vacuum, isolated, it's not going to work. But like there has to be a longer play of like we're bringing you here for the specific reason to do something else. Like even if it has to be like if I would have had my mind's eye somewhere else, like hey, do we have to include you in a like hey, Megan Thee Stallion, Beyonce, are you shooting a music video? Can we get in before you actually start the song, but like for 15 seconds and do something? So everyone has to watch us talk about something before they get to the thing they actually want to do. That's, I think, a more creative way of like, are you shooting a video? Let me get a cameo in that and with a vote for me sign or something. Like instead of just having you in that one moment because no one's paying attention to your speech. If Beyonce dropped the video, they're gonna watch that. Or if Meg and Lotto drop a song, they're gonna want to watch the video.
Yeah.
Stuff
And
like
I
that,
would
I think,
also
is just
say
more
like,
creative.
I would also say like leaning into maybe their natural talents in a way, like when Oprah does it, Oprah has an interview with them because that's what Oprah does. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like it's
Yeah,
already something like, so when you talk about a music video, something that's natural. But I just think like I don't want to say that I think the play with celebrities is probably getting more people that weren't going to vote at all
I agree
versus
because you're
people
on it.
who
You're pulling them out of their comfort zone, and that
yeah.
you're making the celebrity engage in something that they're not, and that their audience knows that they don't necessarily have a connection to. But if it's more genuine, to your point, it'll just flow better. It'll
Mhm.
seem more like engaging. Um, I don't necessarily know what that is, but also I think if we're talking about elephants in the room, I think the bigger elephant to me is that I think yes, we can point to Democratic politicians in Congress, largely who are Black or Hispanic, who I think are actually like doing this. The problem is that like we can't solve this. I don't think necessarily in isolation with just Black politicians. Like I don't think white politicians are there yet in terms of like penetrating that ecosystem that only they know. And there are spaces in which I think they need to engage that I don't think they have yet. Because I think like Jasmine Crockett can go on The Breakfast Club. She can do stuff like I would recommend. Someone should go on Funny Marco. I would recommend like all of that stuff. what is the thing that a white, maybe Democratic voter is listening to? Is someone who looks like them engaging in that space? And I would probably say no. And I think that's the biggest problem.
And they have a lot of white woman podcasts, so that's no excuse.
And Kamala tried to do that with like the
Yeah.
call her daddy stuff, but like someone else, to your point, it can't just be people who look like us because I do think there's like if that would be like if a white person went on the Breakfast Club trying to talk about our shit, we wouldn't pay attention to that just because we don't think that they're a part of our community. The same thing goes on the other side. Henry, I don't know. That's just my thought. Like I think white people need to like figure this out too. And I don't think
Oh,
we've taken black people
absolutely.
have taken more steps to figure this out. I don't think white politicians are there yet. Maybe just because like who we can point to Jasmine Crockett, we can point to like Wes Moore, we can point to AOC. Who is the young white politician that like, yeah, I think Gavin Newsom's really good, but
And
I think it just
Chris
takes
Murphy, but he's not.
Mhm.
Is he on podcast or like is he do? I
he's
just see him in the field. That's all.
I see him out there, but I don't think he's like I don't think he's there yet.
hmm
I think I see him a lot, which I think showcases intention. But like Henry, who is that, or does that person even exist? You're about to
Um,
drag me somewhere else. I can see it in your
you said what?
face. You're about to. You said, "Yeah, cool." What y'all were talking about. Here's where my head.
Um, I think that I mean, truthfully, it just comes down to like, let's say how like the other day when Trump did the inauguration and the congressman from Texas,
Mm-hmm.
Green,
Mm-hmm. Al Green.
yeah, he was like trying to protest and blah, what they censored him. But like that girl, Major, whatever that girl name that Majori, she be going against Crockett.
Marjorie.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, her.
Majori. That's what you said.
I don't know.
Said I don't care about her enough to know her name.
I'm not good with names. Point though, um, she do the same kind of outbursts, and Republicans overall do those type of outbursts, but they don't get penalized. And then you had maybe like 10 Democrats voting against that.
Yeah, it was just so dumb.
Right. So it becomes like a point of just like moral interest and like preserving what we call this democracy. And I think that's really the crux of it. I mean, we can argue the election demographics across the board, like white people, what would their percentage voting for Kamala? And then that would go into like what are their values and interests and do they align with ours? And that is the whole like that's the unfortunate like crux of America for real because it's always gonna be like race thrown into the conversation. Like when they think of liberties and freedoms and justices, yeah, they want them for themselves in certain ways. But like, oh, if I look across the board, let's say how this whole attack on DEI, like they're for that shit. Excuse my language,
Who is
but
that?
who are we talking about?
The folks who don't look like us.
They are totally for dismantling it. However, until real time it affects them, they're like, oh dang, this is how this like sub issue actually like plays a part. So I think that's what having a person like Trump in office teaches us. And I think we forgot about that a little, or they forgot about like they don't actually understand the burden of it all versus
Or
us.
rather, I don't. I think you're right. I also think it's a thing of I think they're not willing to get uncomfortable with like what the actual truth is, and I think that's a big part of it. Where it's like, even after the election, oh, it's the economy, it's this, it's that, and it's like, oh, like okay, but like you show me the part where Trump was actively talking about the economy. The thing that he talked about, tariffs, is not good. So like, let's help me figure that out. And I think there's an uncomfortability to be like, hey, yes, like the state of the economy was not great. People were like feeling the prices, but something else had to be happening that might be a referendum on your community, that might be a referendum on your family, and you have to be willing to like explore that uncomfortable spot. And I don't think they're there yet to basically say like, hey, And then this gets to, I mean, I have a grand theory about this. I think it gets to the thing of like, if you ask a white person, like, are they racist? No. But then if you actually kind of like slowly ask them other questions, they're prejudiced as hell. And it's like, if we're
Black
basing
people
it,
are prejudiced
I,
also.
I, I mean, I'm not doing a all,
About to say, oh my
I'm not
God,
doing an
black
all
people are
I'm not
racist.
doing an all prejudice matters conversation here,
Yeah,
but
like what?
But
like,
I said that no 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 listen, I only did that to more so point out like you can have prejudice ideologies, but overall an ethic or a value precedes that prejudice.
that was not the two dots that I was going to connect in reference to that. But I see your point, but I do think it's like a thing where if you're talking about that, I think we can't. And I think it's like it's even like the compare and contrast. When we all of a sudden realize that, or there was a conversation about black men possibly not voting for Kamala, what happened? All of this communication, all of this like conversation that was in public and in private took place. Did white people have that after the election? No. Like y'all haven't had the actual conversation about how racism and sexism played a role into her losing because you're like, oh, it's the economy. Like you're looking for something easy to blame. And I think until white politicians in Congress like get to that uncomfortable shit, we're going to be in the same place. Because like until you're willing to acknowledge like, hey, guess what? Like prices still ain't good. So something else got to be going on, right? Explain
I
that to
mean,
me.
I feel like they'll never admit that because I feel
I
like
agree.
that kind of like defines what racism, like why we can never ever move past racism. Because I just feel like the biggest reason why you can't move on from a problem if you never address it. And I
If you
feel like
never, yeah.
we've
Mhm.
always we'll just keep making excuses. So it's just this loop, and they'll never admit that, or they'll say the economy, then they'll come up with something else. And that's why it's just funny when you talk about the pushback on DEI, because now like white women should be in uproar about all of this stuff. But where
Mhm.
are y'all? Would y'all even still admit that maybe I was wrong here? Like, oh, now I'm seeing the big picture, that like DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion really is not just black people. And if black people even got here by DEI, there was a lot more hurdles that they went through to get here. But if they're not thinking like that, which I'm not going to say all, but like as a collective, no, because also as a white person, if you are really not waking up every single day and like dismantling racism and going out of your way to do that, you are benefiting from the system. And that's just kind of like,
Yeah, or even like, and this will transition to our next topic, but I think people even get the term like DEI confused. Like basically, if you are anyone outside of a
right.
economically privileged white cis heterosexual man, if you are a woman, if you are a military veteran, like if you just come from a less economically, beneficial situation, it benefits you too, even if you are white. And I think this is a good place to close. That's the conversation I think white people need to like have internally, or someone in Congress needs to talk about that. Like y'all are actually hurting yourselves, and y'all too stuck in y'all ways to even see it. But no one has said that. Like y'all are so focused on these other people, y'all wonder why y'all still in the same place. It's because y'all think black people are the issue, and no one has said that.